with a little bit of local news. So let me kind of fill you folks in on kind of what's going on, a couple of things that have occurred. So the statewide Inter-Island Vaccine Passport Program is up and running. Now, it's very limited. First and foremost, you have to be a Hawaii Island resident. You have to be a resident of Hawaii. You have to have gotten your vaccine in Hawaii, apparently because that's the only places that they can be, that they can validate the vaccines are legit. So it's only working for residents, and it's only working for inter-island travel. It's not yet working for trans-Pacific travel. So even if you're a Hawaii resident and you're returning from the US mainland to Hawaii and you got your vaccine in Hawaii, it still is not going to apply. So it's quite limited. However, it's one step in the right direction. So we're kind of happy about that. There's going to be, if you're planning on coming out to Hawaii, you may want to kind of think about those plans and come sooner rather than later. There's a whole bunch of bills that are being contemplated that would result in increases in the lodging taxes. Long story short, what they're going to be doing is letting counties put their own hotel taxes on top of the existing state hotel tax. So if that happens, governments love nothing more than the freedom to tax. And if that occurs, I predict you're going to see a whole a slurry of new taxes coming on. So things are probably about to get more expensive. There's more politics behind all that, but we're going to save you those agonies. Big Island construction. I want to hear from Dylan about this one when we get to that part of the show, but apparently construction is through the roof. The Big Island is leading all of the islands on the amount of construction, either permits or activity, etc. So that's another one. And I'm going to want to hear about Scott on this one. We've talked about this before. Hawaii landlords, there are some bills that are they're being passed now that would make it create a payment plan for past due renters. So the COVID thing, there's all these people who have not paid their rent, COVID for et cetera, et cetera. They've been able to kind of they've not been evicted up until now. These laws are about to expire, so they're concerned about evictions. So there's a law that looks like it's being passed around, hasn't been passed yet, that would make essentially the landlord pay for some of that rent by having a payment program. That might make the housing crisis worse, unintended consequences. We'll talk more about that later. And Hawaii, I discovered that we are the tops in the nation for worrying about COVID. Maybe that's why we have the lowest COVID rates. I'm not sure. Correlation does not equal causation, but certainly we know that we worry about COVID the most. Now, I did post a video a long time ago, early in the COVID days. You may want to go to the YouTube channel and look up, don't come to Hawaii during COVID. And I talked about there's a history in Hawaii behind diseases. It goes all the way back to the 1800s and smallpox that wiped out a large part of the population. There is a historical context why local Hawaii residents are very cautious about diseases being spread. There's a deep history behind it. And finally, I want to hear from Heidi about this one. The tourists are back in rural Hana, but the residents are not happy. So, there was a great statement over here, but basically during COVID, a lot of us, all of us that live here during COVID got a feel for what it must have been like in Hawaii a long time ago, because the beaches were all empty. There was no visitors. It was just basically locals. And, that went on for some long time. And, we got used to it. And now all of a sudden, the visitors are all coming back. So now we have traffic, we have driving, we have crowded beaches. And Hana, the great quote here is, the quote was, quote, "It was just really beautiful that all of our kids got to experience a taste of what this place used to be." She said, "I want to go back." And I think that really clarifies what that whole thing is all about. So that's the quick update. Our COVID things look great. I mean, our fatality rates are low. We're not following the curve of COVID cases, which is good. It's a good sign. We're on our way to herd immunity. I heard about the CDC has said that masks are going to be, you don't necessarily have to wear your mask. So hopefully that's going to result in some relaxing of the masks. Our Governor Ige said, we're not going to do any of that. We're going to keep our masks on for right now. So which is typical. It reflects kind of the local sentiment here. So we'll see where that's going to go. But anyway, that's a quick news roundup. Let's do a quick roundup of the news locally. Dylan will go in the order. Dylan, Scott, and Heidi. Dylan, news-wise, you saw that story about construction off the charts on Big Island. What other news has occurred that's notable on the Big Island over the past 2 weeks?
Well, the interesting thing about that construction kind of number or statistic is, they don't really qualify what that means, right? I mean, there's a lot of government construction going on, right? Like government projects and stuff. There's a lot of luxury development going on. There are a lot of homes being built like in South Hilo, like the Puna area, spec homes where people are putting up single family residences on 1 acre lots, agricultural lots. But there isn't like widespread residential homes being built. You know, it's kind of a misconception that they're saying that construction is really booming here. They're not building, you know, there are no big developments of new single family homes. It's kind of onesie twosies here and there in the South Hilo area and some other areas of the island. But a lot of those permits too are renovations. People who have bought something that is old that needed upgrading, and you got to do permits if you're going to redo the kitchen and move some plumbing around, add a bathroom, stuff like that. So construction is busy. Definitely everybody in that industry is happy, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're building more homes or homes for regular people, because they're building $5 million homes on the regular. So
it's kind of a statistic kind of a thing, but not so much it's not kind of what you would think it is if you kind of had boots on the ground, basically.
It's not necessarily like a positive thing for regular people, right? I mean,
right.
If you're in the construction industry, it's cool because you're building new bridges and roads and stuff like that, doing some new building construction. Or, you know, if you're flying in a private jet, they're building you a house. But everybody else, not really.
You got a private jet that's building you out. Like, great statement. So Scott, what's new on Oahu? I don't know if you saw I don't know if you've been tracking those launch around and what that's going to do, but what else has been going on Oahu news-wise that you want to kind of share?
Well, one real quick one is we just had a monk seal pup that was born on the beach down in Kaimana. So that was a nice, cute little news story for Oahu.
And Kaimana, that's right by your house, so that's like right around the corner, basically. How cool!
Yeah, that's where I go swimming all the time and hang out. It's a great little beach right next to the natatorium. So it's taken up half the beach. They blocked off half the beach. There's a million people down there taking photos every time the thing moves a flipper, even, or whatever it is, whatever you call it.
It's the newest star. What else, Scott?
No, the Renner article you were talking about makes no sense to me. Anytime the government gets involved, it's a disaster. And I think that's contributed to what our lack of housing supply right now. You give all these breaks and incentives for people, and nobody moves, nobody goes anywhere. So now you don't have this inventory that comes on. So wait for the train wreck to come down the road on this one as well.
And that's the thing out there. You know, you got you're getting like a temporary relief, but the headache is going to be much worse when the party is over. So, or the hangover, I should say. Well, we'll see where that's all going to go. Heidi, what's been going on? If you saw that article in Hana, what the sentiment is of visitors, or what else do you want to share, Heidi, about what's been going on in Maui over the past 2 weeks?
Well, the big news over here is Maui has implemented a second COVID test requirement. And maybe we talked about this on the last show, but it's kind of a big deal because if you are not vaccinated, once you arrive in the airport on Maui, you have to receive another COVID test right there. So it's certainly incentivizing people to get the vaccine. However, I mean, not everybody can get the vaccine. Sometimes people have a previous medical condition or for whatever reason. So you still have to take the test before you travel. But then when you land on Maui, you have to take another test at the airport. So anyway.
So to clarify, even if you like did your thing, you used the Travels app and you got fully tested, less than 72 hours prior, you land in Maui, even after you land in Maui, you have to get a second test as well?
Yes. So they just implemented this about a week ago. That's what
the Big Island's been doing the whole time, pretty much.
Second test on the Big Island. Yeah. And okay, so that's what you got to do. That's just all there is to it. You got to get your second test. So even if you got to get a bunch of tests, and hopefully this is going to end soon, friends. Hopefully this will end soon. I'm really praying that herd immunity is going to do us some good in the state of Hawaii.
Well, my wonder is if if you don't have to wear a mask if you're vaccinated, how do you know if you're vaccinated? Are you going to get a red badge that says V on it or something so you don't have to wear your mask? Like, I'm wondering how is that going to be enforced? So
I think they've got a Star of David that's going to be wearing. I think that's what I heard. Could be a rumor, but that's what I heard.